All right, we have Kevin here. Kevin, would you like to introduce yourself to the people on the panel and the people that are listening to this podcast as of now?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Kevin Britt. I am co-owner of Simple Fast Sell, which is a real estate investment marketing company. I am co-owner and also co-founder, semi-co-founder, along with my business partner Trinity Blue, who was responsible for the name of Simple Fast Sell and a lot of the systems when we first started up. I am a wholesaler, real estate investor, and a real estate agent. I hang my license with On Point Realty.
Okay, nice, nice. A big entrepreneur right here. Let's talk about your beginnings, right? So if because a lot of people they want to know your background if we even did anything. They're like, okay, can I relate with this person? So what was your beginnings like? Let's say all the way up to until you were 18. Because I say 18 because that's where a lot of people that's when they got to start making decisions. You know what I mean? So what were you doing that during that time?
Yeah, pretty typical, man. I like to party a lot in high school,
Yeah.
so I got got myself into a lot of trouble hanging out with people I shouldn't have been hanging out with, and made a lot of bad decisions that I paid for in my later years. And one thing led to another, into a lifestyle that I shouldn't have been in. Uh, Long story short, how it ended up into real estate investing as I got into my later 20s when I first started getting myself together. Uh, I found myself in a regular 9 to 5 position, just working to make a paycheck, working to live, and realizing that I wanted more out of life. So that led me to researching real estate. And the
Mhm.
first thing I knew about real estate or heard about real estate was get your license, become an agent. That's something I looked into probably, I say, around 2016, 2017. Never did it, but it kind of opened the door to me being fascinated with real estate.
Yeah.
And I think it was a Thanksgiving. Me and my brother-in-law, who was also my business partner, Trinity, who I mentioned earlier, he
Mhm.
was also getting into real estate because he had read the book probably everyone has read, Rich Dad Poor Dad,
Yeah.
Robert Kiyosaki. He uh he put me onto that book and I read it also. And we kind of got together, joined forces, and we came up with the idea of Simple Fast Sell, a wholesaling company.
Nice, nice. And when you had that eureka moment, like, oh man, I don't want to work a 9 to 5 anymore. What actually like what was that day like? What was that trigger? Like shit, like did something happen that was really deep where it's like because for me, it was when I used to work at a bakery, right? And I did everything, right? Remove the trash, kill the rats, make the ice, make the bread, did everything, right? And then my last straw was this rat just ran up my like shoulder, right? I was like, I am not doing this anymore. There has to be a better thing. And that's when I read like Rich Dad Poor Dad and everything. What was it like to you? Like what? Because I call it the NPC mentality where everybody's just going day to day to day without even thinking like big like this. So what happened on that day when you were like, I gotta change my life?
Kind of the same, man. To be honest, it was definitely a eureka moment. It was like a light bulb switched on, and I've never been so optimistic when I had that eureka moment. I've always been hopeful, like even in bad situations I put myself in when I was younger. I ended up in bad drug addiction, like a whole run lifestyle. And I'm talking about for years, man.
Yeah.
When I got started too, I was coming in with no credit. I had ruined a lot of things in my life, like just completely destroyed it. So for me to have that again, that hopefulness, that optimism, that like, oh my God, like there is a way out of this for me to do better. Not only just me get myself together where I was at, but not end up I don't, average. I don't like using that word because I don't think anyone's necessarily average.
Yeah.
Everyone has potential to do great things, but that light bulb definitely clicked for me that day, and I seen light at the end of the tunnel. That's the best way to describe it.
Okay, nice. And when you say like the whole average thing, do you feel like you're around average people? Like when do you like the whole saying where you are the five people around you, and that's when you brought in your your brother-in-law. Is there anybody else that you brought into your team as well?
Initially, no. He had a heavy influence on me. He is my brother-in-law, but he's also kind of played a big brother role to me.
Hmm.
When I was younger. He's been around since we were young. Like he practically lived with us when I was 13, 14, 15 years old, maybe even younger than that, actually, around 11. And he's like he's same age as my sister, who he married later on in life. So he's like 4 years older than me, and he's military. He was in the Army, and him getting into real estate around the same time, it was just kind of like destiny almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we already had great chemistry. We worked together well. We've always had a good relationship.
Yeah.
And he was a lot further in the research than I was. So initially, him bringing me on and putting me on to things that I wasn't privy to
Hmm.
was definitely helpful. So initially, I kind of took his lead on things. I was researching on my own YouTube
Yeah.
and watching all the podcasts, the Maxwell's, people like that that were wholesaling heavily, because wholesaling attracted me, man. Because
Yeah.
that was one of those things with my background. I didn't necessarily have the confidence when I first got into it,
Yeah.
but seeing wholesaling, you can be whoever you want to be. When you
Yeah.
when you're reaching out to these people, they have no idea who you are.
It's
So that was like a route for me to get started.
okay. So what would you say excites you the most about the whole wholesaling route, other than the other types of routes, like, oh, let me be a flipper, let me be this, let me be that? Why wholesaling at first?
For one, like I said, I was dead broke. I had a couple $100. Like I mean, literally, I was working with a couple $100 in the bank. So that was one huge aspect. I didn't have credit, and but I was very hungry, driven. I
Hmm.
knew that the way to explain it. You asked me about that eureka moment too. When I found this and I found out about wholesaling, I can't explain it. I just knew it was going to work for me. It was like I found my niche without even doing it yet. Just knowing how it works and seeing how other people did it, I was like, okay, this is for me. I can absolutely make this happen. And I was driven enough just to get out and get after it. And what was the question again?
Like,
Was
why wholesaling out of everything else?
while wholesaling everything else. So it was something I could jump immediately into and actually get started. Taking action is a big thing for me.
Yeah.
I recommend that for anybody, especially getting started, because I know you've heard of analysis paralysis,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So many people are guilty of that, and me too sometimes. But in the beginning, I was so hungry to
Hmm.
want something better and something more that never troubled me at all. The analysis paralysis, wholesaling was the avenue I chose to take because it was I don't want to say the easiest, because wholesaling, it's simple, but it's not easy. You got to put the work in.
Yeah.
But it was the route that I seen for me that I could have the quickest route to success, to actually see fruits of my labor paying
Yeah.
off. And I thought it would be a whole lot quicker, because I know a lot of people get that idea too. Even me watching YouTube. Oh, you're gonna get lucky. You go driving for dollars. You find a house. Reach out to the homeowner. You're gonna hit a $20,000 deal. In a matter of a couple of weeks. Little did I know it was months on end before I actually bagged a deal that
Yeah.
I made money on. But I was right, and my niche was right, and it fit well for me what I was doing at the time.
Yeah. Can you talk about your first wholesale deal and like what it was like throughout the whole time you were doing it?
Yeah, nerve-wracking to an extent. And that was that confidence issue. I had enough confidence to get out and go after it because I was taking action, but a lot of my confidence issues in the beginning were because of my background.
Hmm.
I was very hard on myself, critique myself, which has served me well also. Like critiquing myself heavily, it always makes me do better. But so it was nerve-wracking, but also very exciting, because I think it was $6,000 we made on our first wholesale deal, but it was
Okay.
so exciting just finding when I got that seller I went to appointments before, but there was something different about this one, because I think I made an initial offer over the phone, like an
Yeah.
estimated offer, and I was in their ballpark. That was the first time that had ever happened. Like we were so close on the price. Then when I got there and saw the house and saw that it didn't actually need a huge amount of work, it was a good amount of rehab, but nothing extravagant that was going to cost, 50K or more or anything like that. So when I got there and seen the house, the neighborhood, I knew if we could negotiate them, just a little bit lower, I had one. So that whole process was just putting everything I saw on YouTube and read in books, The Art of Wholesaling, all of these books I had read to get me to this point, and kind of use that, seeing it, actually work,
Hmm.
me working it, me putting this work in and something coming from it. It was It was hard to describe. It wasn't even about the money. I could have made $50 and I would have been just as excited
You
because
just
I
want to see it
seen that
works.
it actually works. And it did. It worked. We got it under contract. One thing that was at first was a little nerve-wracking dealing with buyers at first. We had spoken with buyers, but then I really saw how buyers use, because some buyers do, but rightfully so in some cases, use tactics, especially if you're new, to try to lowball you and
Yeah.
try to, and it made me very, can't think of the word for it. What's the word? It
Can you
made me
get,
think it wasn't going to happen.
yeah.
Like,
Can you
go
give me an
ahead.
example of what they did?
Just giving me really low ball offers. I think I had it locked up at like 75,000. It was
Yeah.
between 70 and 75, coming in with offers like 40, 45. It was, you know what I mean? It was crazy. It was like, oh my God, maybe I don't know what I'm doing. It made me doubt myself, made me
Yeah.
doubt what we're doing. But credit to Trinity doing this, because he handled some of the dispositions at the time as well, reaching out to new buyers other than the ones, because the buyers we were using were just people we met at meetups, and we were just reaching out to them. We really didn't know what the resume really was. We just knew they were at meetups and they said they were buyers. But we used a method of finding new buyers, kind of the same way you search for comps on Zillow. We searched for houses that were recently flipped in the area, in the same neighborhood this house was at. And he started reaching out to those buyers. And then we started getting some solid offers like, yeah, we can do 80,000, 85. And then we knew, okay, this is going to happen. And we ended up locking it up with a buyer that could close fairly quickly, pay cash, no hassle. And yeah, we walked away with $6,000.
Nice. Awesome. And in your dynamic duo, what do you provide to the team? And what does your partner, your brother-in-law, provide into the team as well?
So initially I was the go-getter. He was more of the systems person. He setting up our systems that we could utilize for future deals. He was always, especially in the beginning, because of me jumping in, like I said, with no money, no credit, all of that stuff. He was more secure. So he was more looking at it from a business aspect from the beginning. And I was looking at it more from a go get it aspect.
Mm-hmm.
I was the hustler. I was out here grinding, reaching out to homeowners. If we found a list together, he found a list, I was the one hitting them up, doing all the acquisitions, negotiating, whatever it took to actually get the deals under contract. And then after that, I was going for buyers too. He was handling some of the dispositions, but I was out there. I was literally doing everything from start to finish, because for one, I wanted to learn and I wanted to keep gaining knowledge. And another, I was just so driven, man. I was hungry. I
Nice.
wanted this to work so bad. I just wanted to go after it. So he was initially setting systems up and finding out information that we could use that would make us a solid duo. And we worked well together that way.
Yeah.
He had a full-time job, so he didn't have the time I had to put in. Actually, when we got this first deal I'm talking about locked up, I was working a gas station job, not making much at all, minimum wage, maybe a little bit more. And I immediately quit. A lot of people said I was stupid at the time. I immediately quit because I was like, no plan B. I'm full throttle.
Yeah.
Pedal to the metal. Like I'm going in on this. I know it works now. I got enough proof. I don't care. I have nothing to lose. I'm going for it. And yeah, I went for it and it worked out because
Yeah.
I knew what I was doing.
Yeah. You believe like the return on investment on actually going out there and finding a deal is way better than you working at a gas station for probably like $12 an hour or something.
Absolutely, man. Definitely best decision I made.
Yeah. I always say like people keep on investing into S&P 500, but they don't invest in the SME 500, where you can see a bigger growth than that than 8%. And what's better than the first deal is the second deal, right? Because I feel like that's what tells people who they are. So now what happened with your second deal? How long did it take for you to get that next deal? Or what happened? Do you feel like more of a rush? Like, oh, this shit is working right now. What did you change anything new, or what did you keep and what did you change for your second deal?
Man, our second deal came, I think, in the same week as the first deal.
Oh,
So that was even more satisfying. I know if it wasn't the same week, it was definitely within a 2-week span. And mind you, both of these deals came off of bandit signs,
yeah.
which we used to do a lot.
Yeah.
And the first few bandit signs I used, working with a little bit of money, like I told you, I bought the big yellow cardboard thing and I cut my own signs out.
Yes,
and then
sir.
I wrote handwritten, we buy houses, put a phone number, went and put them out everywhere. And we got our first 2 deals off of those.
Wow.
And then, yeah. So To answer your question though, yeah, that second deal, it really solidified. I had already, made my mind up, like I said, on the first deal and put in a notice to quit my job. I think I gave him a 2 weeks notice, the typical 2 weeks notice. And when we got that second deal right behind it, it just solidified it.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I'm not worried about, like you said, no I don't even think it was $12 an hour. I think I was making like under $10 an hour.
Oh, hell no.
It was horrible, man. I was a hustler then too. Now I would
Yeah.
pick up extra work. I would do whatever I needed to do to make extra money to make
Yeah.
sure me and my family were okay. But yeah,
No,
it solidified it. That second deal we're in there.
no, that's awesome. I mean, and you're like someone that people push I can't even say the word, probably should like be like almost, because like you put in the work ethic, and you were like, okay, because I tell people, hey, probably don't quit your job, right? If you're going to be investing, but you knew what to do, right? You knew, like, I always tell people, why are you taking a picture of silverware and then posting on eBay or every single platform and selling it for just only $1? You know what I mean? You're just wasting your time doing that. You're not making a big profit. And you're like, hey, instead of me spending my time at the gas station, I'd rather just go ahead and find deals, communicate. And it's actually like, am I going to eat? Because whenever you were working at the gas station, you're like, oh, I can still buy food. I can still do this. But that motivation still wasn't there if you were to work at the gas station, which I'm like, kudos to you. That's like unbelievable right there. And for a bunch of people that want to get started in real estate, like wholesaling, especially, what are some things that they need to know? Like, how would they start wholesaling in general? What do they need?
Taking action is the biggest thing.
Mhm.
If you want to get started in wholesaling, you've obviously done some research and know enough about it to want to get started, like anything else. So the best piece of advice I have for anyone, and not even wholesaling, just in general, like if you want to pursue something that you really want to go after, is taking action. That analysis paralysis really kicks in with a lot of people. Uh, don't be scared to take a chance on yourself. I'm not recommending people quit their job, because I know, bigger jobs you have more at stake. If you're making X amount of dollars a year, you got insurance, you got a family to take care of.
Yeah.
So it's not recommended unless I just can't explain it. It wouldn't have mattered if I would have had that type of, well, it's hard to say. But even with a better paying job, I would have still made the same decision more than likely. And it paid off tenfold. So my biggest piece of advice is take action. Definitely do your research. Watch other people that are wholesaling, take tips everywhere you can, whether it's YouTube videos. In the beginning, I was heavy on making meetups, things like that. I kind of
Mhm.
got to get back to it. I fell off from that a lot, especially like I'm kind of an introvert, man. When it comes to networking as much as I should, kind of stay to myself when it comes to that stuff now. But in the beginning, I was definitely heavy on making meetups, networking with other people that's done it, watching YouTube videos of people that was actually out here doing it. Not and no disrespect to anybody that's on YouTube trying to sell stuff, but I didn't pay attention to the people always trying to sell me on a course. It was more the people just making videos for help, like cold call training videos,
Yeah.
something that was going to help my craft get better. Those are the types of videos I watch, because it was like I want to talk to these people, and I want to know I'm asking the right questions. So doing your due diligence as far as what you need to do to get a deal, and quit worrying about the other stuff. Because I have a lot of people hit me up and asking about getting into wholesaling or real estate investing. And the biggest thing is they make such a I'm not going to say a big deal, because it is a big deal, but they make it so complicated. Like, oh, how do I do the contract? What attorney do I use? And all of those are valid questions. They're good reasons to ask those questions, but don't get so caught up in that. If you get the deal, everything else, if you're driven enough and you're motivated, and you want it to work, all of that'll fall into place. You'll figure it out. The hardest part is getting these deals. You need to get it in front of people. You need to get in front of sellers, homeowners. You need to be talking to them, and you need to get a contract locked up.
Yeah.
After that, it's just too easy to find. It's not super easy, but you're going to find an attorney. Just ask the right people, network with some people, call around, find some good real estate attorneys, find out who takes assignments. And yeah, so taking action to answer your question.
Yeah, I love that. And what causes people to be there? I see a bunch of wholesalers out there, right? But what makes a really good wholesaler? Like, for example, if I were to, why would person that, like the seller, why would they choose you over the other wholesaler? What makes it different from your perspective?
It's a good question. Given the seller knowledge, knowing what you're speaking about, a seller, anyone can tell when you really don't know what you're talking about, when you're trying to oversell them on an idea. So knowledge and knowing from a place within yourself, like, hey, I absolutely do have a solution for you. Like, I'm not trying to, there's no agenda here. There's nothing behind this. I have a solution. If you need to sell fast, if you're a distressed seller, whatever the situation is, whatever pain points you may have, I do have a solution that can help you. And that authenticity, being authentic when you speak to sellers is huge. Same thing with buyers too. And that's what makes a good wholesaler. Being authentic, not just looking at sellers as paydays, because they can read, most of the time they can read that up and down, and trying to lock their house up for way less than what they could probably sell it on the market for. And
Mhm.
you're kind of just making that obvious. And then working with buyers too. Buyers are very important for wholesalers. You have to
Yeah.
treat your buyers just as well as you do your sellers, because that's who you're going to do business with. So knowing your numbers with buyers, that's the biggest thing. A lot of wholesalers get into it and they come with like 10% equity. They bring them to me all the time. They'll have like 5 or 10% equity. And it's like, after closing cost and everything else, man, I
It's
might
gone.
actually pay out of pocket to get this property from you. So knowing how to run your numbers.
And with running numbers, underwriting, what do you do differently, or how does someone get good at doing underwriting, analyzing deals? Because honestly, I get some wholesalers that give me deals, quote unquote, but I look at the ARV and it's like, bro, how are you counting? Why are you counting this one right here when it's like in a different county? You know what I mean? Somewhere it's just like, what are you
Yeah.
doing? Uh, I get it. You know what I mean? You want a number to be a number, but it's not going to be like that. So what do you think, analyzing wise, what should people look out for in a way?
Like you said, comparables are huge, man. Some people try to uh, force deals. You can't. A deal is not a deal unless it's a deal. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? You
Yeah.
can't make a deal out of anything. So those numbers are key. Comparables, like you said. The way I run mine is very simple, and it's been like this from the beginning. It's the old 70% of ARV, subtract your repair cost, and that people complicate that too, rightfully so. I understand it, but I'm here to tell you, you don't have to. Everything is as simple as you want to make it, or as complicated as you want to make it.
Can you
You don't
explain
have.
that to the people that are listening to this, like the 70% rule?
So 70% rule is whatever your after repair value is based off comparable sales in the neighborhood. So if you got this house on 123 Main Street in a neighborhood, you find similar houses in the neighborhood to get your after repair value. And what I mean by similar houses, you want to stay around the same age, year built, same age. So if it was built in 1970, I typically don't like to go more than 10 years newer, 10 years newer. So, and about 5 to 10 years older. I like to stay within that 20-year span. That's
Mhm.
flexible too. For some people, it's case by case, but that's generally where I like to stay. Same amount of bedrooms, same amount of bathrooms, similar square footage. Those are the huge things to look for when you're searching for a comparable. So you want a similar house, you get at least three. Three's enough to make a real good comparable. And then you get an average price between those three, basically. So you get a ARV, which is your after repair value. And this is key for after repair value. A lot of people get this mixed up when they're making comparable sales. After repair value means tip top shape. After repair, after all repairs are completed,
Yeah.
what is this house worth? So when you search your comps, you don't want a house that's just sold just like it, that's busted down the street. You want a house that's been fixed up, that's a flip, if you can find three. You want flip properties, or properties that are in really good shape, similar to this one that have sold, to see the maximum potential for your house, your
Mhm.
prospective house. And once you get that after repair value, you just multiply that by 70%. If your ARV is 100,000, 70% of that is 70,000. And that's where your number starts.
Nice. And why, what people are probably wondering, what about the other 30%? What is all that going into?
So you want to start off with enough equity because you have closing costs, which are expensive. holding costs, a lot of costs that go in, even though you're wholesaling, you still got to account for things for the investor that's going to be your end buyer.
Mhm.
And they have things that are, like I said, holding costs. How much time is it going to take them? Yeah, they may be looking at making $50,000, but it's going to take them 5 months to do it. You got to start adding that up. That there's holding cost in between there. They've got simple things that's not don't even seem like it's a lot, but it does add up. Utilities, if they're using a loan to buy the property. So that 30% accounts for all those other costs, because at the end of the day, everybody has to make money. And that end buyer, it has to be. So we start, you can, I mean, that's flexible too. The 70% is a good place to start. Once you become a little more advanced and you get into rental properties and all of this, that's more flexible. You can get up to 75. The market we were just in that we're coming out of, and during COVID, you could even go as high as 80% and make deals work, just
Yeah.
because everything was so inflated. But 70% is a general rule of thumb to start out. Once you get your 70% of that at the repair value, then you can start working off your repair cost and your assignment fee.
Nice. And after that, how would someone negotiate down or up, depending? For me, I do 60% after my repair, subtracting my repair and my wholesale fee. If I were to do a wholesale fee, I'll subtract all that, and then I'll do 60% of that, or 65%. And then that's where I'll start the negotiation. Be like, hey, I'm trying to offer this, because, if I were to offer at that price right there and then, it's like, what if they say yes? You know what I mean? I could have, I probably would have lost, like, not lost, but I could have made a lot more money off of that. So that's how do you do something like that as well?
Something similar. This is everyone's different when it comes to this too, how they run their numbers. Everybody's kind of in the same ballpark, but a little bit different. In the beginning, I did the same thing. I would always try to start a little bit lower. My team actually got on to me, more specifically Trinity, because we were business partners. In the beginning, I was so kind-hearted, and still am. I'm good-hearted. I wanted to help sellers so much because of
Yeah.
my circumstances. I came from some pretty rough circumstances in life that I was coming out of, and I felt for people. I felt for what people go through. I knew how it was to struggle. So sometimes I would mess myself up in negotiations. I had one lady in particular, the second deal we just talked about, we were negotiating, and I was actually negotiating our side up because I felt for her situation so much. And Trinity had to nudge me like, man, what are you doing? Like, this is a business. Like, this is a business. And so I had to learn through that way. I still really care for sellers, and especially when they're in tough situations. I don't like the idea of catching sellers with their pants down and taking advantage of them. So
Yeah.
I try to be as fair as possible. So to answer your question, yes, to an extent, I'll run my numbers accordingly, and I go heavily by the numbers when it comes to making an offer. But of course, at the end of the day, just like I said, it is a business. We have to make money because we're using resources and time to get this done also. So I do use that, but I do my best to make it as fair as possible for the seller too.
Nice. And Kevin, a lot of people, like you said, we're in a stage in life where, or in the era where there's a lot more introverts now, right? Where people are staying at home and all that. And they want to get better at speaking with people, and they want to get better with negotiating, right? What are some things that you would say, like, how can someone get better at sales or talking with people, getting out there? Because you seem like the person that was like, hey, I am an introvert, but I'm still taking action. What's your opinion on that?
Same thing, taking action, just doing it. There's no way around just doing it. Like, if you're bad at it, the only way you're going to get better, you can read as much as you want. You can research as much as you like, but nothing trumps experience. So the best way is getting out there and talking to people,
Nice.
making meetups, even when you don't want to. Get a list of people, figure out how to get a list of potential sellers, whether that's driving around and finding distressed properties, getting a list of distressed properties, driving for dollars is what we call it. Drive for dollars, go find a big list of people that you rode around and drove. Skip trace their information through a free site like truepeoplesearch.com.
Mhm.
You find who owns the property through the tax records, whatever county it's in. Once you got a name, you got an address, go to truepeoplesearch.com, reverse skip them, get a phone number, start calling people, start dialing, getting on the phone. That's how you get better.
Nice. I love that. Like, it's free too. Like,
Yeah.
I've used it, and sometimes the data is not there, and they're like, God, you know what I mean? But you could try other ways. Like, sometimes you have a whole format. Like if you're cold calling, if they're not picking up, try knocking on their door. If they're not if there's nobody there, then I'll lead to mailing, like
Send the
see where
mailer.
that would go. And for you, like what tools do you use for your wholesale? Since before, because I'm guessing before you didn't know any of these tools and systems and softwares. What are you using now to up your game in wholesaling?
Yeah. Used a lot of different tools. We were using myreipro.com for a while. That was a couple years back. That served us well. That's actually a CRM system too, customer response management system. So
Mm-hmm.
you can keep up with all of your leads, your follow-ups, any campaigns you want to do. And it also, you can get data from it. Then a prop stream. Prop stream's another good one where you can, another system you can use for finding people's information. Also pulling lists too for data, vacant property list, high equity list, whatever you want to pull. There's so many out here now. And batch leads is another we heavily use. We we moved on up from those days when I was out here, hustling and putting bandit signs out and making. I was literally, dude, I was making all the cold calls. Like I would make like 100 cold calls a day. Go from that to doing the follow-ups from other cold calls. I was doing everything from start to finish, going to the appointments, getting the pictures, coming back, running the numbers, calling them back, negotiating, getting them under contract, blasting the email out to potential buyers, discussing with buyers, getting them in to look at it. I was doing all of this with multiple properties at a time when we got going, just because I was so hungry. It was what was necessary. And then me and Trinity got together as good business partners should do, and we started figuring out how to start to delegate some of those things. And we're really getting to a point now we're able to scale our business a lot more. And that's the thing with us now. How can we scale? How can I delegate? Because once you get to that point, you don't want to be working in your business. You want to be working on your business. There's a huge difference
Mm-hmm.
because at some point, it's good. It's still fun, but you can burn yourself out when you're doing everything. And it's not, I became less passionate about it, trying to keep up, juggle everything. It's a lot. And sometimes properties don't get closed because you're doing too much over here and less over here.
Yeah.
Learning how to delegate, put people in position to actually do some of those tasks instead of me doing everything. And like I said, working on the business, not being a self-employment's very different from being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Self-employment's great if that's what you're looking for. That's cool. I'm looking to be an entrepreneur and a business owner. I want a well-oiled machine that's running at all times without me having to be there and put my finger on everything.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Like the book, The E-Myth, it kind of taught me that as well. And my uncle is a good representative of being a self-employed because he has his own, ironically, he has convenience stores, you know what I mean? Like me and all that and our culture. And he has a convenience store. And I'm thinking like, dude, are you ever going to grow your business? Like, he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, first of all, you're the entrepreneur, you're also the manager, and you're the technician, right? You're working for the worst person, and that's yourself, right? Because you can't make decisions like here and there. And he doesn't spend his time with his family as often. I'm like, but that was your choice. You could be like, you could have someone hiring here. You could have security cameras. You can add more value to your company, to your business, and grow it. My uncle's friend, he owns a bunch of dominoes, right? 50 dominoes. I'm like, dude, how'd you start? Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, you got to have that entrepreneur hat, right? But you can't be the technician, and you also can't be the manager, right? You got to be one or the other, and you have to put the who's, right? The who's in place, and then you can move forward building up your company. And you did it perfectly. Like, hey, I need a partner, and you got your brother-in-law involved, and now you probably have employees working underneath you guys, like saying like, hey, cold call these many people. Let's put an advertisement, say, instead of calling people, how about we buy more ads as well? And I'm guessing you've done advertising because I've heard like you've done radio, right? You've done like commercials and stuff like that. How does that work, and how did that go?
Yeah. And clear it up because I know Trinity might hear this podcast. We mutually came to each other. I didn't just bring him in, you know what I mean?
Oh,
It wasn't like, hey, I started this, let me bring Trinity. He was a lot of this stuff is his brainchild, including the logo, Simple Fast Sell, the name, all that. But yeah. What was the question again?
Like,
how did the radio work?
Yeah, no, you were doing radio. Were you doing radios or were you doing commercials?
Yeah.
Like, Okay.
Radio ad, we've got one running now. So the radio ad, something we've been interested in doing a long time. We actually wanted to do it back in like 2019, 2020, and we did, and then COVID came. We just never got around to doing it. And I reached out to radio stations before, just willy-nilly, not just going in it with no knowledge.
Yeah.
And it was priced so high, it was ridiculous, man. It didn't even make sense. So me and Trinity got together on that, and we came up. He actually found a course, and we took a course on how to negotiate with the radio before we did that. So we found out how to look at the numbers for different radio stations, use those numbers to negotiate with the radio stations to get a deal that worked for us also. So well worth it. Costed us like $3,000. We spent a business money. Very well worth it though, because we negotiated a deal that was pretty awesome. It's pretty sweet.
Nice. And what are some key things that people should realize before going into a negotiation like state that you believe?
For radio in particular?
Radio or anything involved, because I do believe like maybe with radio and everything else, they're kind of like they're all in the same ballpark in a way, but go with radio, let's say. What did you come apart?
What was are you asking what's beneficial to take in the negotiations when you're negotiating like a radio ad or anything in general?
Yeah, like what are some key things that people should put in their mind whenever they come up to a negotiation, like with radios and stuff like that?
Like I said, the numbers, just like anything else, knowing the numbers. For instance, for starters, you need to know who your target audience is, at least in a general meaning of that, like your target audience, what age group. And you can do this by doing your KPIs. And God, don't even ask me what I know what KPIs is. I can't remember what it stands for. Doing your KPIs, which is pretty much analyzing your data from what you've done, properties we've gotten. What audience are they typically coming from? Are they males, military? Are they a certain age? Are they divorced people? Is it foreclosures? That type of thing. So knowing who your target audience is and what they like, their the type of things they like, so you can kind of figure out which radio stations they're listening to. And the radio will supply this to you too, radio in particular. And just like you said, this is in general, you can use it for any other type of advertisement. So using that, knowing what your target audience is, and then getting them to send their numbers, not numbers you're looking up. You want them to send this information, and you want them to send the correct information. So making sure they're sending you exactly what you're asking for, which is which audience listen to what stations, what times. You want to get a breakdown of all of this. What times are people mainly listening to these radio stations? Which age groups, what type of audience are listening to certain stations? So from the beginning, you know which stations you want to go with. If that makes sense.
That makes sense. I like that. And with are you still sticking with wholesaling, or are you still buying like some rental properties and cash flowing off of those as well?
Absolutely, man. That was the goal getting into this. Wholesaling was the door opener for everything else. And yes, I got into a lot of flipping. One thing I don't necessarily knock myself because I don't have regrets, especially getting into real estate investing. But I wished I would have got started on the rental aspect sooner. I was chasing that fast money, flipping, wholesaling. Flipping's great too now. It's a good way to build. Like I was low on cash, like I said. So it was a way for me to build liquidity. So I got into flipping, keeping our own properties. So we're at a point now and been here for a while where we can pretty much cherry pick the ones we want to keep, ones that fit our criteria, whether it's a flip or rental property. Because now I actually just closed the rental property I'm working on right now, and keep the ones we want between me and Trinity. Me and him will figure out. It's kind of like you get one, I get the next one, type of thing. What me and him do, and unless it's a flip, we'll go in together, and then we wholesale the rest. And don't forget, I am also a licensed broker too. So I have that. I can put that hat on also. When we flip a property, I can list it myself.
Nice.
Save some fees there. Same thing when I'm buying a rental property. I can use that in negotiations. It actually helps me because I can cut my commission to make the offer look better. I can, hey, I'm offering you this, but you know what? Don't worry about buyer's commission. I'll represent myself, and that's 3% or how much ever my firm's charging that you don't have to worry about.
Nice. Wow. Okay. And what would you say the worst wholesale deal for you was?
There's been a few bad ones, man. Some of these sellers have some, oh my God, they have some issues going on. Uh, there's one in particular that's coming to mind. There's one we closed on actually that was a tough one, and there's one that we were so close to closing like on multiple occasions, but we never did. The one I'm thinking about that we did close on here in Fayetteville was a property with an elderly man, very nice guy. I built a lot of rapport with him, but this guy was 90, pushing 100. He was
Damn.
elderly, and of course, a lot of people don't do electronic signatures and all of that stuff, especially when you're dealing with an older audience or older seller, which is fine. I've coped with that. I'll meet you where you need me to meet you. I'll work with you. I understand that. That's fine. But with him, it was a lot of problems that didn't have to be there that he added to it. And I'm trying to think of some good examples with it. This one's been a while back. It's been a couple years ago. And on top of the issues he was bringing, making the paperwork a lot more difficult, and arguing with our attorneys, like skeptical of the whole process. On top of that, there was a squatter in his property, and every time we would send a buyer, this is true story. The guy that bought it from us, if he ever hears this, he'll laugh. He knows. Almost every time we would send a prospective buyer up there to look at the property, she would come out the house. She had mental issues, God bless her, but she would come out the house naked, war paint on her face, and chase them off with like a wooden
What
bag.
the hell?
And it's a true story. Matter of fact, the guy that ended up buying it, I think he actually walked in on her in one of her prostitution acts, live in the living room, handling their business. This may have been right before we assigned it to him, or right after we closed, but he walked in and had to witness that with her. So that was a unique one, and definitely had some good times with that one.
Man, that is crazy. What the?
The war paint's not even exact. I'm being serious. She would put war paint on her face, come out the house naked. She was always naked, like for some reason. I don't know if she did that intentionally but it was a lot of nudity going on.
Let's call that the nudity property right there.
Naked property.
And we can go on to the deep questions here. So, what is the greatest accomplishment in your life so far that you believe?
Yeah, something more personal. Just had a newborn baby girl.
Nice.
And that is my greatest accomplishment.
There you go, a father right there.
Yeah.
And well, what event in your life was like kind of like the hardest, and it kind of changed your path in a way?
Explain the question again. I'm sorry.
What event in your life was probably like the hardest, and it changed your path in a way?
What event? Like a single event or situation, or
it could be both. Depends.
Probably me going through the whole drug addiction thing that I was speaking about earlier, that it got really bad at one point, like literally living place to place on the streets, panhandling for money, very humbling. That was definitely life-changing. I had my first eureka moment when I came out of that and actually started making some lifestyle changes. That was my first eureka moment. And then the second one was when I channeled my motivation and my optimism through real estate investing.
Nice. And what would you say the biggest sacrifice that you made so far?
Biggest sacrifice?
Yeah.
The biggest and best sacrifice I made was putting it all on the line for what I'm doing now. Not settling for a weekly paycheck, whether it was the gas station or plant work I've done in the past, making much more money than I did at the gas station. Always looking at that, I always looked at that as temporary. I knew that wasn't going to be my story. And that's how I knew when I got into wholesaling and real estate investing. It was hard to explain. It's like I found the right shoe for my foot. I knew it was going to work. There was no way it was not going to work. And that's the biggest sacrifice I made. Taking a chance when a lot of people in the 9 to 5 world would call you stupid, or when you're giving up secure money, even when it's not shit. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I don't see how that's secure, but giving up, even if it's just health insurance at a job, me sacrificing that idea of life for I'm gonna bet on me. I'm gonna put everything on me, and I'm gonna go after what I want to.
Yeah. And I love that. I love that you're actually like you're putting yourself out there. You're like, hey, I can make my own money and I can see how like it's exponential. I say life's not linear. It's not like, oh, I get this and I get this and I get that. No, it's like exponential. Let me put my sacrifices on the line, see what I can get, and it'll just grow like that. That one decision could probably make you a millionaire if you would just
Absolutely.
take it.
Yes,
And
sir.
what do you want people to know you as? Let's say you're 80 years old, right? You're in the deathbed or something. What do you want people to know you as?
An honest, genuine person.
I love that one. And now we can move on to the ending questions here, Kevin. So if you can go back in time and tell your younger self something, what would it be?
That's a good question. I've actually thought about this question a couple of times. I think things work out the way they're supposed to work out anyway. But if I could go back and tell my younger self something, is be more confident in myself. Stop looking to others for validation, and yeah, be confident in myself. Don't validate myself through what others people's opinions are of me. It would have saved me a lot of heartache.
Nice. I like that. And again, I always tell people like, hey, everybody in the world, they don't know the answer. They're just trying to live their life and they're trying to figure it out too. So sometimes the people that you look up to, most of the time it's family members too. And they're like, do they really know the best or are they just figuring it out? You know what I mean?
We're all just figuring it out. Advice and suggestions are definitely helpful, but you got to have your own compass too. And I never, when I was younger, that was one of the reasons for my bad decision making. Is my compass was it was haywire. It was messed
Mhm.
up. I didn't have a leg to stand on.
It's all good. Now look where you are now. And
Absolutely, man.
what question would you like to ask your future self?
Oh man, that's a tough one. What question would I like to ask my future self? Were the sacrifices worth it? And in regards to time spent is what
Yeah,
I mean with that. You know what I mean?
the big ROI. I love it. Okay. You're gonna look back at this at like 20 years from now. You're like, yeah,
It
definitely
was worth
was.
it. More than likely, it probably, yeah, because so far everything's been worth it. But
Eh,
I have sacrificed a lot of family time at times. My fiance, she gets on. Because when I get going, man, I have days where I'm not as pumped and motivated and I don't put as much in, but I definitely had those days where 7:30, 8 o'clock, I'm in my basement right now. This is my little man cave
Yeah,
workspace. And I'll stay down here all day and all night just getting after it, like trying to figure out the next step, the next move. When I'm in when I'm in that mentality, she has to put me in check. Like, hey, come on now, you got a baby up here. You got me up here.
that's funny. And what do you think the secret sauce into becoming successful?
Just don't quit. Persistence, consistency. That's it. People that are successful are just people. Everybody fails. I make mistakes all the time. My personal life and my business life. Thing is, I don't quit. Every day is a new day, and staying optimistic. And yeah, that's it, man. Just don't quit. Keep doing what you're doing. If you believe in it, go for it.
Nice. Okay. Love it. And is there a quote that you live by?
No, not really. I there's a few actually. There's a few. Have you ever read the book No Excuses by Brian Tracy?
No, no. What's that? Well, what's in it, I guess.
Really, it just talks about that making no excuses for yourself. So that's one. When I read that book, that always stands out to me. Just the concepts in that book of how not to make excuses
Yeah.
about anything, even if it's from the outside in, it doesn't look like it's your doing why it happened. Always look back to yourself to what could what could I do different next time, or what could I have done different? Because ultimately, the only thing we can change is ourselves in any situation, even when it's not necessarily our fault. We can always do something better.
Yeah.
So, always putting the light back on myself.
Yeah.
And that's for personal and business. You know what I mean? Because we can all be so quick. I know myself. Like little things blame, like my fiance around the house. Like if my coat or something's missing, like what happened to my coat? You know, still looking at it. I should have put it in my damn closet in the first place where I
Yeah.
can grab it and not lay it around where she picks it up and moves it. Just, you know, little stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
always holding myself accountable. So
Yeah. I think Jocko calls that extreme ownership.
extreme ownership. Okay.
Yeah. And there's another one, Viktor Frankl, who was do you know who Viktor Frankl is?
I don't. I know Jocko, but I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Viktor Frankl, he was a Jewish uh man, I was thinking about it at 19. He was basically like in the concentration camps, and he was saying like not having the victim mindset. Like you're not a victim in your situation. If you let the person think they have the upper hand on you, that's when you would lose. And you see a lot of people, they're probably like, oh man, there's no Wi-Fi here, or there's, oh man, my life sucks because I was born in this environment. I'm like, no, like he would say like, no matter what, like he had his kids, he had his wife get burned right in front of him, and he had like all his buddies get killed right next to him. He's like, listen, you still got to keep moving forward and not have that victim mindset, because I always tell people like your life's not as worse as this guy. Okay. So if you're just complaining about where you are right now, listen, you're probably doing way better than 2/3 of the whole world right now. Like you have running water, you have a roof over your head, and you got food you got food 3 times a day. So there's really nothing to complain about, and you're not worried about, oh, am I going to get hurt today? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely, man. That's a good way. Yeah, that's definitely facts. What you're
and
talking about, not having a victim-less mentality.
mhm,
I'm not a victim to anything, my circumstances, and I say me, I'm talking generalized. Everyone, doesn't matter how bad it is. Some ways, man, I grew up with so many people that had it so
oh
much
yeah,
worse than me. Even my business partner, Trinity, he you know, I'm not, it's not his story is not mine to tell, but his situations definitely was something I could look up to, even going through what I went through, which was quite different than his. But no, nobody's a victim, man. Anyone can do anything. It just depends. It's up to your mindset. It
yeah.
definitely is.
I think the first thing that woke me up to that is my first time going to Bangladesh, right? Uh I had, I was a little third grader. I had my little McDonald's, whatever. I was in a plane. I'm like, yes, you know what I mean? And my dad at the time, right? We just landed in Bangladesh. And this is like a third world country. It's really poor. And there's kids on the fence of the airport, right? They're like reaching out with their hands for food or whatever they can get. And my dad literally just took my McDonald's box and gave it to them. And then at the time, I was like, in your head, you're like kind of mad, right? You're like, what? That was mine. And then you look over
My
and you
damn
see,
food.
like, I wasn't hungry at the time. I remember, like, I was just holding on to it. And then I look at the kids that took, like, these kids were like, they were younger than me, and they were probably like kindergartners or whatever, right? And they were just munching on that. I was like, oh man, this is a different world. Like I have a lucky. And like in a third grader's point of view, it's like this is the world. Like it's kind of shocking that I have a good in a way, and I thought I didn't. But when I went back to America, I was like, man, it's like all environmental, right?
Yeah.
It was a shocking because I wasn't growing up rich, right? I was pretty. Uh, I had my struggles with like family, all my family members living in one house. Like I mean, like 20 people in one house, right? And
Yeah.
it's like floods everywhere. And I was like, man, life sucks. But then I was like, wait a minute, there's a roof over our head. We're still kicking it. I'm still alive. I've
I
known
got
kids.
McDonald's.
Yeah, I got
Right. You know what I
McDonald's.
mean? I got
Yeah,
McDonald's.
it's crazy to me. But I think that's what kind of woke me up to be like, I mean, look where I'm at, or look where I'm at now, and I should be grateful for everything that I have right now. And Kevin, I feel like you expand that in your energy and whatever and the things that you say. Uh, what also what books would you recommend for people for certain situations or things that can help them out in their real estate career or business or even life?
The one I just mentioned is a good one about accountability and coming up with is really good for goal setting, and that is No Excuses by Brian Tracy.
Mhm.
That's a really good one. For real estate investing, there's a few of them. The ABCs of real estate investing by guys, Ken
Robert or Kim,
McElroy.
I think is it Dolph DeRoos? I think he made Real Estate Riches.
I think it
I'm
was
looking.
Ken McElroy. The ABCs of real estate investing. Let me check. Oh,
There's a,
I'm sure it's Ken McElroy. I think.
or
You
is it Garrett Sutton? I'm thinking there's a bunch of guys.
Yeah. There's a slew of them. Yeah, Ken McElroy.
Okay, Kim.
McElroy. McElroy. The ABCs of real estate investing. Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
There you go.
A classic. That's a classic. A lot of people read that one that's in this, but if you're trying to get into this and you want to know, I need to go back and read that book. Actually, it's been years since I read it, but that was kind of the initial start of what I was doing, and then from there, this is how I got started in wholesaling real estate. Trinity actually recommended this book for me when we started. He read it and like, hey,
Nice.
we're gonna do this. Read this book, man. And it was kind of the starter kit. It's called The Art of Wholesaling Real Estate by Robert Shemin. Don't quote me on the exact title and author, but I'm 99% sure it's The Art of Wholesaling Real Estate by Robert Shemin.
Nice.
I'm pretty sure. That was one of the first ones I read. There's a lot of them out there, man. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, Think and Grow Rich. This is just a slew of. I think you mentioned one that the E Factor or the E Myth.
E-Myth. I forget the guy. There's a lot of books about investing like that. E-Myth, Profit First. That's a good one as well. Things like The Military Millionaire by Gary Keller.
Yeah.
Those are really good books about real estate, and all the bigger pocket books. They help too. But again, like you said, people, yeah, you can read all these books all day, but action is what's going to get you there.
Gotta take action.
And that stopped me for a bit. And then the story with the Rich Dad Poor Dad, like you realize like, oh my God, this is a liability, this is an asset. And then when I explained that to my parents, they're like, yeah, you can get out of my face. And I was like, but like,
Yeah.
like we're living in a liability. Like we need to make money. And they're like, no. I was like, man. So in life, you're going to have people you're going to have people that don't have the same mindset as you and don't want to do anything with you. But later on, you're going to find like people like you, Kevin. Like when we met, I was like, oh man, this guy, he's on it. He's on the entrepreneur goals and everything, like, and our group as well, like our the people that we hang around with, that we're all about making money, making our life better. And we may think that we're big, but in a grand scheme of things, of all of North Carolina or all of Fort Bragg or all of everywhere, right? Like we're a really small group trying to do big things.
Small fish in a huge pond.
Oh yeah.
It's a lot out there. So you're right about that.
And there's a lot of mouths to feed, and like people think it's all about competition. I'm like, well, we can help each other out. Like, let me help you. Let me give you this person. Let me connect you with this person here because they're going to help you out the most. That's what I try to do. That's my goal with everything else. And is there anything that you would like to tell your daughter? Let's say she looks back at this at your age right now.
At my age right now, man, the only thing I would have to ever say to my daughter is how much I love her, how much she just realize how much she can offer to this world. Because in my eyes, she is gonna change the world. She's gonna create a spark. She's gonna do so many great things. One thing I'm big on with myself, and I want to instill in my daughter is a healthy humility, because I think there is a such thing as unhealthy humility. You can be humble, but overly humble become overly passive. But having that humility, knowing that no matter the circumstances anyone's in, treat everyone the same, with the same respect at all times. I've been to my rock bottom before, and I know how I felt. I've seen a lot of people in those bad and desperate situations, and 9 times out of 10 now, there's some evil, excuse my language, but there's some evil fucked up people out here now.
Yeah,
there's no hope for. But 9 times out of 10, people that are in bad situations, that are doing bad things, they're not bad people. They really are in a bad situation. So treat everyone with respect and, have that humility and realize your potential. Realize your potential. You have great things in you. You, you know,
Nice. I
yeah,
love
man.
that. Your daughter's gonna look back at this like, Dad, come
He
on.
just dropped the F-bomb.
And how can people reach out to you, and how can they give value back to you?
How can people reach out to me?
Yes.
Of course, all the social media platforms, through our That House Guy Kevin on Instagram, TikTok, also on Facebook is Kevin Britt. Our website, which is simplefastsale.com. Sale is spelled SALE. Then I also have a personal website, kevinbritt.com, KEVINBRITT.com. And you asked how I can add value to them or them add value to me.
How can they add value to you? What do you need?
Networking, man, just like what we're doing right now. Good
Yeah.
relationships with good people, this optimistic, positive, and trying to do some things, trying to get out here and like I think Jared and is it Jared or Gerard?
Gerard and Devin.
Gerard and Devin hit on at the beginning of this is try to get out here and make this paper, man.
Oh yeah.
Gotta make money too. So whoever is optimistic about doing some great things and in the real estate world or any entrepreneur type of lifestyle, you can add value by networking. Let me know what worked for you. That's like you said a while ago, is helping each other get to that next level, that next step. And through aiding resources, if I can help and I can give resources to anyone, I definitely will. If it's attorneys, if it's how to do creative financing deals like subject to. I get a lot of people advice on that. Man, subject to deals were the thing for me because I didn't have credit or money.
Yeah.
Learning how to leverage a deal, that was all of my flips in the beginning were nothing but subject to, by the way.
Really?
But yeah, absolutely. So that's how you can add value. Just reaching out. I'm trying to get into multifamily and more commercial now. That's my thing. I'm trying to build that passive income. I've already started closing on some SFR, some single family residences as rental properties, but I'm looking for trailer parks, 4 to 8 units right now. I'm not starting out too big. We'll take on bigger because I absolutely will wholesale a multifamily too, commercial deal. So anyone that's in that space, heavily, any advice you can give me. I've heard about syndication a lot, never done it. So just things like that, real estate related. Any tips, pointers, any way I can help, you can help, because I don't want to just take value from people. I also want to give as well. So that's it, man.
Yeah. Again, Kevin, thank you for coming to the podcast. You were amazing.
Same, bro. I appreciate you having me, man. Thanks a lot. I love the energy. Thank y'all for having me.
Yep.